Hello, I'm Mark Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have the lovely and charming Alex Tatham, MD of Westcoast in the house. How are we doing?
Very well, Mark. Hello, how nice to see you. Very exciting, and I know we're talking about mental health today, but London is just going into tier 3, so the most important thing is we get home for a restaurant tonight. Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the last chance before 2021, I think, in London, that's for sure. So, Alex, look, what I wanted to get you on the show for, because obviously one of the key things that's happening in the moment, everyone's had a real tough year around mental health. Everyone's had a lot of stress, a lot of overworking, and the channel's done a fantastic job of keeping the economy going, etc. But there's still a lot of people that have been really, really struggling. And I wondered what strategies Westcoast or yourself are doing for employees that have got to the end of the year and thought, you know what, I just can't cope, or they've had depression or anxiety, or they've just overstressed through work. How have you identified it, and how have you been coping with that yourself at Westcoast?
Well, listen, the most important thing, I think, is to keep the mood as positive as possible. And by the way, I think there's plenty to be positive about. Most people in our IT channel have had a good year. Most people, I'm not saying everyone, and clearly there are some parts of the channel that would not identify with that. But nevertheless, we are lucky to be in the IT industry. We have supported extraordinary explosion of growth in terms of devices and various things that we've done to be able to support the IT channel. So I think my job, whether it's been furlough or all the way through, has been to make sure that I've been the leader I would most like to follow. In that, what I'm really trying to say is I'm trying to keep everyone as positive as we possibly can, because I think there's plenty to be positive about. And of course, we come to our end of our financial year. We're looking at next year now. We're going to grow again next year, Mark. There's no question. We are going again. And this is a relentless, unrelentingly excellent company at Westcoast. We're just going to keep going. And I've tried to get everyone to come along with me on that particular journey. And I think they do. And they really feel as though that they can really take pride in their outstanding performance. Now, of course, I'm being general here, because that's not including every single person. And therefore, if I find people that are struggling within that, then clearly we are doing lots of over communication, and have done all year, whether you're on furlough or whether you perhaps aren't performing as well because your part of the business is part of that business that isn't doing as well as other parts of the business. And it's all very well, isn't it marvelous? Look at our retail team, they're absolutely off the charts, where if you're sitting in the print team, you're going, oh my God, this is awful. So this is a variety of different things, but of course you've got to keep people positive. And for those people that clearly, for no fault of their own, are going to be underperforming this year in terms of the initial expectation that we had of them, what you've really got to do is to say, put your arms around them and say, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right in 2021. And if it's not all right in 2021, it'll be all right in 22. And we'll make sure that we get you all through this, because we're a team together. And it's fantastic that you're working for a business that can feel like a team that is performing outstandingly well. We're going to grow by something like 33% this year. It is astonishingly large growth. So the business is going to do 3.7 billion. It is just amazing. But the fact is that doesn't include everyone. And I want to make sure that everyone feels as though it does include them, because everyone has had a part to play in that team effort.
Yeah, because there's, you mentioned it before when we've spoken. There's no COVID handbook. Everyone actually thought there was no disaster recovery or pre-COVID handbook where you could actually do all this, and it's been tested to the max. How have you tested yourself, Alex, around when you've seen casualties around, like I said, mental health, depression, people being signed off, your warehouse being stretched to the max, and actually casualties all over your company. You don't have to go into specific details, but there's going to be casualties in your company, no doubt about it. How have you identified them, and how have you actually made them realise that it's so? And I don't like using the word "it's okay not to be okay," but how have you made them realise that it actually is one team, and we will get through it, and we will go into 2021 as a stronger team?
Well, I mentioned to you earlier that I think communication, and more communication, is the most important thing that I can do, and our team leaders can do, and all our managers can do. So the level of communication and the joy of, I think, the technology that, of course, the channel has delivered this year has all been about allowing to enhance that communication and to have it more and more and more. And if you look at the team huddles, they're now daily as opposed to weekly. They are the team managers get together all the time. So you're really trying to make sure that you're over communicating. During the height of the first lockdown period, I was communicating with the company every single week in terms of what was going on every week, and making sure that everyone saw how the market was doing, how we how the business that we did were fitting into the various categories in the market, what we were going to do, and if there was bad news to give, you gave it to them straight. So there's no question that was, I think, a really important thing, and that all leaders have done pretty well in that regard, I would suggest. And I certainly think that Westcoast has been absolutely at the forefront of that. However, that, of course, is trying to make sure, and you mustn't make any assumptions, that you're bringing everyone along for the ride. And, of course, some people may stick their hand up and say, I'm here, how can we help with that? So we've made sure that we've had lots of listening posts to everyone. We've made sure that we've had mental health volunteers in every team across our company to make sure that there's someone that they can talk to that is not necessarily their manager or not necessarily within their team even, because they can be independent. And they've all been trained effectively on looking for some of these mental health issues that we've got, and everyone has got perhaps this year. The fact is, however, that we have really tried to bring everyone along with us, and we've done a pretty good job in that at Westcoast. I've got to tell you that we've had very few people drop by the wayside with regard to that. If they have, and if they're off for a long period of time, one of the things that we've done is to bring them back potentially to a different team, to refresh them a bit and to give them a new outlook as well. So we tried to move people around. We have a very dynamic internal hiring system here at Westcoast. And so therefore that really creates a really strong dynamic within the business. And of course, if some teams are doing well and others aren't, well, we move the resource to where it's most needed.
Yeah, because that was a question I was going to ask you, Alex. Someone goes off, maybe they've been off for anxiety or depression. They've gone off for 3 months or whatever it is, and then they come back. But what about the people that are in the existing team that maybe resent that person? They're thinking, oh, they've had, they don't understand mental health and us. They just think, oh, that person's been on holiday for 3 months. They've swanned off. They've gone off. They've been sitting at home or whatever their illness. They've come back, and there's people in the team not understanding mental health, and they look at them thinking, I don't want to be in your team now. I don't want to be a member of my team. How do you cope with that? Is it just a pure change, or is there any help in actually making some resentment?
Well, there's a couple of things, of course, that don't forget, quite a lot of those team members have probably had to pick up their work during that course of that period as well. Yeah. So therefore, there is a potential resentment to that. But if there is, we identify it pretty quickly, because there's those team meetings that we talked about, there is now lots and lots of, and we identify those kind of issues. And if we feel that there is an issue, then that's when perhaps we would change which particular department they come back to. Not totally, but we'll make sure that they are in a different place of work or a different team, focusing on something that's a little different, and a refresh basically for them is as important, perhaps.
Yeah. And my last question, which is a bit off piece, Alex, but you've always said to me I can ask you anything and you'd be great.
Ask me anything.
I spoke about the channel earlier in the year, and at the beginning of Q1, hiring was on all-time level. Obviously, it's drop, and it's back up to pre-COVID levels. Now, I spoke to a client the other day, and he said to me, Mark, he said, it's great that you're saying it's hiring the pre-COVID levels, but where is the hiring? And I know you're not in recruitment, Alex, but I want to get your view on this, because he said to me, are the companies selling kit just going on the best form of defense as attack, and there's still the same market there, they're just trying to grab other people's lunch? Or is it the growth in the services business where they're getting more customers, then they're getting more run rate business, and they need to physically get more people in? Do you know what, Alex? I didn't know. I actually didn't know the answer, because I actually said to him, I said, I haven't done the analysis that much on whether it's services business just growing, and they need more people, or actually people selling kit think, you know what, this is a great time to attack, this is a great time to grab someone else's lunch, and we're just going to hire and we're going to grow. And I said to him, I'd start asking the leaders of the channel, people like yourself who are dealing with partners, dealing with vendors, and I'm not saying for specific hiring, but you must have a barometer in the market of what's the sentiment out there. Is the best form of defense is attack for service for people selling kit, or are services companies growing because they've got more customers and they just need more people. What's your view?
Well, I think the first is definitely true. Yeah. So I think that actually, if you are being successful, selling products, whatever they may be, whichever particular sector that you're selling products, and actually you've had a good year, then you're clearly wanting to do more of that, because that's relatively simple to be able to do. You don't have to, you can hire more people in. It's the same business process that you did yesterday that you're going to do tomorrow, just with more people. And actually, therefore, you've got wider coverage. Generally, I think that is a very sensible thing if you're in a position that's the role that you're taking within the channel this year. Are people beginning to hire more services? Well, actually, what I don't yet see is those end users that we all serve effectively signing off enormous great projects. They are still buying lots of kit because they need lots of people online and refreshing their product sets that they are still trying to refresh. And of course, there's product shortages at the moment anyway. Yeah. So there's vast quantities of demand for bits of hardware out there, but there aren't huge projects. So that services point that you talked about, that's not necessarily happening. But there are a couple of key areas that is happening in. Move to the cloud. Well, as that's happening, and that started at it was started last year. It's accelerated this year. Boy, oh boy, it's going to carry on accelerating. There's more requirement in that particular space. I think that you'll find there's more requirement for MSPs, and so outsourcing to make sure that you're outsourcing that IT to make sure that the end users are always on. So there's a couple of areas I think that's going very well. However, another thing that's happening is that this channel, and particularly in the UK, is as entrepreneur as you like. And that entrepreneurial spirit allows you, and me in particular, to come in every day and say, I've got another great idea, Alex. Yeah, let's go do this. Yeah, and so we're hiring into different places all the time to do different things. Yeah, into different levels of service. So there's always new things going on all the time, and therefore, as a result, that's where our growth is happening in terms of some of the new areas of investment that we're making into new areas where we weren't selling this year. So we're doing new things because actually we can leverage off the success that we've had this year in order to expand into new areas all the time. And I think that actually resellers and vendors alike are trying to make sure that they are as entrepreneurial as alike in order to protect themselves a little from perhaps an oncoming downturn in some of these enormous kit sales that we've all been having this year. I think that will continue for another 6 months, by the way. But is it going to continue forever? I don't think so.
Yeah. And my last question for you, Alex, because I know you're very busy and you've been gracious enough to give me some of your time. And I don't want to go through completely into the remote working and flexible working scenario, but as we've come out of 2020 or coming out of 2020, hopefully, and moving into 2021, obviously I can see you're back in your office now and there's probably people speaking around. What's your policy moving forward in terms of remote working and working from home, or do you want to get all your people back in the office? Where do you see the cultural move for you?
Westcoast work better when we're all in the office. It just does work better. It's more energizing. It's more, the communication's better. It's faster. It's furious. People like it. As soon as we opened the office, people wanted to come back because we had the opportunity to be able to come back. Good heavens, I spoke to you earlier this year, and you said, I'm desperate to get back to the office, Alex, as you showed me around your home for the 5th time. And as a result of that, in fact, the only people that you had in the office were your own children, I think. So the point about it is that we want our people to get in the office because Westcoast works better in the office. We work more effectively when we are together, creating ideas and sparking off each other. Don't get me wrong, I think that people have been fantastic working from home. But if I had my way, we'd all be back crammed in, creating the buzz that we always create within our offices. If we could, that's what we would do.
Alex, I'm so pleased you said that, because there's no way I can go back to working from home. In fact, there's not enough Netflix, there's not enough TV I can watch. In fact, I'm terrible working from home because I don't do anything. So I'm with you that the quicker we can.
Well, I'm sure that's what your partner says as well, Mark. Yeah, get out.
Yeah, it's I'm obviously I'm a nightmare to be around. I'm much better in the office. But Alex, look, you've been a fantastic guest. Thanks very much for your time. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for joining us and listening to another episode of our Channel Chat podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and are listening on iTunes, please could you give us a review and subscribe in order to get the newest episodes as soon as they're released. Otherwise, as always, we release an episode every Thursday at midday, so hopefully you can join us then.